when I say on to you, nothing left to lose. Get into the bag, yeah. I've been on to you, I'm seeing how you move. Imagine all the things we get into. I need you to fuck with me all the way. I need it all, baby. Let me see you drop it, make sure it's all the way down, but keep it solid, solid. If you hold me all the way down and fuck with me all the way, I need it all, baby. Let me see you drop it, make sure it's all the way down, but keep it solid, solid. I'm with you all the way.
Raceway events live round number 6 of the Asphalt Fit Kings. Thank you very much for being alongside us. It is myself, James Otter, alongside Adam Reid, your usual co-commentary pairing for this particular event. Adam, really spicy affair last time out. We're going to go head straight into the main event at the Deep Forest Raceway because, of course, we are a little bit late. We've had some issues with PSN tonight, but hopefully things are going to be ready and raring to go over in the Swiss forest. So, very quickly, Adam, got to wrap up what was a really intense affair over in Austria. We ended up having quite a mad one, didn't we?
We did. We did have the news, of course, in the Discord that Jonathan Spiteri did keep his win. In fact, that was a quite a spicy affair close to the end. But of course, Deep Forest Raceway will definitely bring a whole new dynamic to the season. You know, the elevation is unbelievable around there. So many fast corners who are on the limit massively. So I think our drivers really need to keep an eye out for everything around this circuit because, you know, it's a fantasy circuit. It's not normally one that you'll usually race on. But of course, it can definitely throw up a few spicy moments here and there.
Of course, the Gran Turismo 7, as you just rightfully pointed out, the Deep Forest Raceway, of course, is one of the fantasy circuits. It's based in Switzerland, in the deep forest of Switzerland, up on a cliff edge. And speaking of cliff edge, actually, that could be one thing that people are going to keep a very firm eye on because, of course, with this circuit layout, we've also got the issue of potentially some high degradation around this particular circuit because it is a very fast circuit, especially in the first two sectors. So that could pose to be a bit of a threat later down the line in the Deep Forest Forest Raceway. So that's going to be one to watch. Expectation of a qualifying lap time in the 126s with the full 4.2 kilometre circuit. Adam, what is the expectation for this particular circuit? It's going to be one in terms of high degradation, that's for certain. Is it one for high attrition, though?
It will be interesting. I'm not really sure what to expect around this circuit. As I said, it's not really a circuit you race on. It's a fancy circuit. Gran Turismo managed to cook up this amazing racetrack, and it lies just on the side of a cliff as well. So we'll definitely see a lot of drivers trying to get up to speed. So yeah, be prepared for that as well. Of course, qualifying will be the next thing going up. Of course, 15 minutes to that. So drivers will have to very quickly be on the limits, and be on the limit that it shall be.
Certainly will be indeed. Now, forgive me if I am misunderstanding a certain point here, but I believe the administrator of this particular event is interested in having potentially a word with us in this one as well. So Brandon joins us in the chat here tonight, and for what is actually a bit of a confusing one at the moment out there, because Brandon, you just sort of briefly mentioned actually an issue in terms of the PSN. So, my question, is everything okay? Are we all going to get on with what is going to be, no doubt, a very interesting race in the Swiss Forest? And if not, what is the course of action? He's saying yes, so we are a go. So we are going to be getting on with this event. Hopefully, qualifying is not too long away, if not already started, actually, Brandon. So hopefully, we can get a little bit of a live stream of what's going on, unless we are still in practice. We are still in practice. Okay, so a few people just getting themselves ready and raring to go for this one as well. So that gives us a very quick opportunity, Adam, to talk a bit further about last week, actually, because last week's affair was actually one of high intensity. This is what we expect, I think, from the race in the in Austria, of course, in the Styrian Mountains. In the end, your top 10 rounding out with the Marlon Spiteri, and then, of course, leading all the way up to Denzel Agius, who finishes in P4. There was going to be a really, really big question, though, about the winner of the race last time out. We thought Jonathan Spiteri was at risk of potentially losing his race win, but in the end, he did manage to keep it. So, top three of that particular race. In the end, Jonathan Spiteri did manage to win, but it was all-out war all the way to the end of this race.
It was indeed, and it was such an enthralling race as well. A lot of drivers really having to take into consideration, the tyre wear, and really play their part. Denzel Agius's strategy just didn't work. That's why he's down here in fourth. But there is the top three. Jonathan Spiteri finishing just 2/10 ahead of Daniel Malia. Ayrton Birmingham had a great shot here. He's trying to pull back the championship crown here. He currently lies on 71 points compared to Jonathan Spiteri's 104 at the top of the standing. So, of course, there is still some very, very big contending drivers in here as well. That top five looking oh so close, and John Paul Vella has had a couple of podium. Well, he's had one podium so far, that being a P2 back at round 2. But yeah, this championship is still closer than ever. Malia could get it, Hatches could get it, Spiteri could defend it, and then we'll have to see how it all turns out. But there is your current field. But of course, we do have to go into qualifying very, very soon, because we don't want to miss any of that, because it is going to be a very, very intriguing challenge ahead of the drivers.
Yeah, Jonathan Spiteri, of course, leading the championship then from Denzel Agius. Ayrton Birmingham, though, of course, the last championship winner, unfortunately, is well down the order as well, still on 71 points, but he's managed to find a little bit of his mojo now in this championship, as he's finding a little bit of a rhythm over the last couple of rounds. Will he be able to continue that one, though, at the Deep Forest Raceway? We are just about to get going with qualifying. Hopefully we can tune in as of what's going on now. The drivers are just getting themselves ready for qualifying then. So ahead of us, the drivers, as qualifying has just kicked off right now. So 15 minutes of qualifying, if you're not familiar, before we head into the 50-minute race. So this is on a postcard, folks, who's the favourite for potentially pole position here tonight, but it is going to be one that we're going to have to consider a long-term vision in this one, because, of course, the majority of this circuit is these long straights, of course, down at the back and at the top of the field. The drivers just warming their tyres, though, around the wiggly bits of this circuit.
Indeed, and you say the wiggly bits, and that is really what we're going to be keeping an eye out for. All of these tricky corners about the circuit, and definitely one to keep an eye out for. You know, they can really take, yeah, as you say, it could really take a way out of the tires. And this is something to mention: a brand new livery for Denzel Agius, and as I believe he has joined Project Aversio. He has, according to Brandon Manello. So thank you very much to our director for that. Yes, you've got tunnels, you've got hairpins, you've got longitudinal corners. What a circuit we have here.
Yes, he's joined Project Aversio, of course. We're originally fielding his Sky-based livery. Of course, not actually Sky, but one that looked very similar to that of Team Sky from the cycling, to be honest with you on that one. But hey-ho, here we go indeed. Let's go on board, actually, with Denzel Agius, and let's get a little bit of a run, actually, at this circuit with yourself, Adam.
Indeed, down towards the first corner. There's downhill braking, so you've got to be very, very careful in towards first gear, and then you've got to try and just be patient on the throttle before launching yourself out of the next corner. It's a blind left-hander, so you go up the hill and really just trying to minimize each corner, take it as fast as you possibly can with the limitation of the area that you have. Down a gear you go in towards this tight section, rubbing up against the barrier on the left hand side there before just trying to carry all the speed. You're just basically trying to get a box around some of these corners, and the Lexus is quite more of the heavy kind of car as he turns his way in towards this wiggly section, and the tyres will be absolutely crying out for help, heating up. Then in towards this left hander, and you've got to get a great exit because this is the longest straight on the circuit, up towards fourth gear, up towards fifth gear, through the tunnel alongside the cliff, as you now head your way up towards about 150 miles an hour. We've surpassed 150 up to 156, 57. We're hard on the brakes, down in toward the hairpin. You see Clint Orland there in the background, but you now just have to carry all the speed heading once again downhill. This is where the elevation comes into fruition here, because you're heading right in towards the dip. Reminds you of Paddock Hill Bend, and then you head back up the hill and on towards the main straight, and over the line goes Denzel Agius, and it will be a 1 minute 26.9 in that one. Clint Orland going to the top. He is not being topped because JS19 Jonathan Terry has just gone second.
Yeah, so plenty of lap times coming in that are a little bit faster than Denzel Agius, and to be fair, Denzel Agius not really known for his qualifying performance, but his race pace is absolutely impeccable. So Clint Orland showing that he has the pace and currently leading the way of those that have set a lap as well. Keep a firm eye as well. You know, fine, folks. On Aiton Birmingham, he is in P4 as he's gone purple as Jonathan Spiteri as well. It's last week's winner in the Red Bull Ring. It's one of those weird circuits, isn't it, where you've got those sort of tight crested corners around this particular sector into sectors 1 and 2, but then as soon as you head into sector 3, these long straights, it's so critical you get that great exit straight out at the bottom of the corner at turn number 10, because if you get turn 10 and turn 14 right, the amount of time that you're going to lose in qualifying and in the main race is going to be so critical. And by the way, folks, that is where your penalty will be served if you do end up infringing on track limits. So answers on a postcard, as I said, whether your favourite is for potential pole position here, but I think out of all of these corners, turns number 10 and 14 are going to be so critical.
In fact, I agree with you. They're going to be so impeccable to your lap. I do want to ask you, James, who is your favourite for pole? Because I mentioned a stat last week, if you remember it. But yeah, I just want to hear your kind of proposition for pole.
Great question, because I think Aiton Birmingham obviously has got a little bit of his mojo back now. This is the current Asphalt King. So I do think there is a potential Aiton Birmingham could be up there, but at the moment, you know, you've surely got to put all the eggs in the Jonathan Spiteri basket at the moment, because he is showing some serious pace at the moment, but his consistency is not quite as up there as the man just tucked in behind him, actually. We could hopefully go back to him in Daniel Malia. He's down in P7 at the moment. He has some real mojo behind him, and just as pure consistency, and he absolutely knows how to manage the tyres as well. So if you're going to put any money on anyone, put my 50 pence on potentially Jonathan Spiteri or Daniel Malia, but never ever discredit the current world champion who's really starting to find his mojo this season, I think, Adam.
Indeed. And do you remember my stat from after qualifying last week?
Absolutely not. Remind me.
Well, we now have 5 different pole sitters in 5 different rounds. So, yeah, that's 1 for Birmingham, 1 for Samet, 1 for Malia, 1 for Agius, 1 for Spiteri. And it was indeed Ayrton Birmingham. As you say, he has his potential mojo back, but I can't see a 6th different pole sitter in this one. As I said, it really does show the competitiveness of the championship qualifying, and it just shows that in this part of the session of the tonight's racing, we'll have that little bit of an edge there. Clint Orland does go to second, but whacks the side of the barrier in doing so on this lap here, and his scarlet red, well, Porsche, Ferrari inspired Porsche livery, I think is the best way to go about whatever is on the car there. Of course, he's going to have a big hunk of slipstream. We'll have to see if he's down or up on his lap, because we've gone through the first sector. This is the middle sector, and we'll see what the split time is saying. It's 2 tenths to the good. He is absolutely glued to the back of that Lexus, and that is giving him the biggest toe in all of history. You might as well rename Dennis to Toe Mater at this point, James.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's looking very much well in the favour of Clint Orland, actually, because Denzel Agius really giving a great toe all the way down. Turn 10 through 14 and then 14 through 18, and of course heading towards turn 1. We'll see what this lap tap's going to look like, but it's going to be blisteringly quick. He's only found 2 thousandths of a second in the final sector, but he has now beaten the current Asphalt King himself, Ayrton Birmingham, who's now on the front row in second. John Paul Vella has just beaten Jonathan Spiteri to P3 as well, so we do actually have lap times starting to come in thick and fast that are actually rather competitive. Excuse me. And I'm keeping a very firm eye, though, on Daniel Malia down in P8, though, because I think there's going to be a hot lap coming in soon for him.
Indeed, we'll have to see how that all pans out. That top 3 looking incredibly close. Less than 300ths of a second. Talk about close margins. You're seeing it right in front of your eyes there. Yeah, you see that little kind of red block next to John Paul Vella's name. I think that, yeah, that is the kind of the time to Clint Orland there. So we've got 2 drivers who haven't really been seen at the top end of the championship here in terms of qualifying or the race, but yeah, they've now appeared here, and Clint Orland, of course, best qualifying position is 6th. We've also got, as I say there, John Paul Vella. His best time or his best qualifying is in 3rd. So as long as he's on the front row, he is going to be beating his best qualifying time here. But more drivers going even faster, and we cross over the beam once again. And here comes John Paul Vella in his papaya and black McLaren. He goes pole by a stupendous margin, 600ths of a second. And with 6 minutes left on the clock, James, this is not over by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, no, people are starting to evolve a little bit now out on circuit, starting to find a little bit of strength here. One person that's going to find a bit of comfort actually is Owen Cassar, because he's tucked in behind Ayrton Birmingham. Now he knows he's not as fast as Ayrton Birmingham, so he can brake and do his usual thing and not actually impede Ayrton Birmingham at the moment as well. And notice that Ayrton's also changed his livery as well. He's gone away from his the original pink livery that he got with the teeth on the front, of course, and he's replaced it now with what seems to be a pretty bog standard BMW sort of livery here. So that could be one to keep an eye on, as well as he's evolving his appearance within this world as well. But unfortunately for Ayrton Birmingham, now a half a second penalty for this lap, so that will be done and dusted on that occasion. Just tucked in behind Ayrton Birmingham, of course, as said, is Owen Cassar. Now he's down in I believe it's P10 at the moment. And then, of course, you've got Daniel Malia down up in P8 as well. So there is a bit of an expectation that Malia should be improving, as we've got people getting caught out a little bit by the slowing cars. I think all of their lap times are now pretty much done and dusted. Of course, Owen Kassar, the only person driving the Toyota Supra in this particular championship. But I don't think this qualifying is over and done with for the likes of Daniel Malia. I think there's a little bit more pace to be found for the man in the Penske-inspired livery that is the Nissan GTR. He's just coming now down across turn 18 to start his next lap. There's not long to go in this one, of course, now, Adam. About 4 minutes left in the session, so got the opportunity for a couple of laps, but he wants to get this one dusted, and he's having to battle with Owen Kassar as a result as well. And I think they're both very aware that they've got very limited time and they can't keep messing around like this one. Both of their laps might be completely done and dusted here as a result of that, and now they might have to go around again, burning fuel and burning some of their tyres in order to just have some kind of a clean lap. He's gone purple though, as Malia.
Wow, that's a brave one there for Daniel Malia. He's leaving it very late as he's battling away with it, as you say, with Owen Kassar. But Kassar will now benefit from a slipstream the next time round, unless Daniel Malia maybe goes to the front row and then decides, no, you're not getting any of my slipstream, my friend, and just completely backs out. So there is a big amount of chess being played here. As Kassar, I think he's going to go for a move here. I think he's actually going to blast past the Pennzoil-inspired livery. He will indeed, and down in towards the hairpin he goes. And oh, wow, that was brave there, but Malia will just hang on. We'll have to see what the Pennzoil Nissan does here. They head their way down the hill, trying to connect with each of the corners. Just have to see if any of them do improve. And remember, Daniel Malia did go purple in that first sector. Will he be able to go even higher? I believe he will. He goes over the timing beam and he doesn't improve. 2/10 off. He lost it at some parts of the racetrack, and I think it would have been the back straight where he had a toe last lap around. But Ayrton Birmingham still in that provisional pole position spot.
Yeah, no surprises. Ayrton Birmingham showing his pace at the moment in this one. Now, of course, a fresh look on that BMW that he's driving, showing his colours that are white, blue and red indeed. I'm also keeping a very firm eye on Daniel Malia, as I said, because I do think he would be wise, is the man down in P8, to perhaps back off a little bit, just let everyone do their thing and just fall out of sequence with everyone, because he cannot get a clean lap at all at the moment. Just tucking in behind Jean-Paul Vella in the orange McLaren. He wants to try and get past as well, so everyone's stuck in traffic, or the majority of the people are currently stuck in traffic, and that is just going to make absolutely no difference whatsoever to the timing beam on the left-hand side if everyone's tripping over each other.
Indeed. You can see how close everyone is. Just look at that back straight. We've got two cars there in front. Jean-Paul Vella is still trying to get past Daniel Malia, and there's a moment where you just think, do I just get space here? Just maybe drop the back of the pack and then just pick up any form of toe here, because you're in close proximity and you're pretty much just tripping over each other. Like you said, James, these guys are not improving their laps whatsoever unless you see any improvements on the board. They go over the timing beam, but it looks like there's only been 2 improvements there. I'm not quite sure. I think one of them was, in fact, I had to Birmingham as well. So he's got even faster, 125.707. Decent lap time there from himself. Again, you're just seeing how close everyone is running at the moment. And so it is right now. Ayrton Birmingham from Jean-Paul Vella from Clint Orland, and that's Owen Kassar spinning around.
Yeah, and you know what, as well, if that had happened the previous lap, we would have had enough time to get around and have another go at this, but he'll flash the hazards and try and get back round again. But a testament to the drivers that have all elected just to hold each other and sort of trip over each other, and they're happy with their current positions, clearly. There are a few other people that are falling out of sync, though. There are people down, currently just approaching turn 10. Actually, I wonder who they are, because they actually might be in a better position than everyone else. Denzel Agius is also a man who might be in a better position, because he's fallen well in front of the people around as well. You've got the man in freeing Clint Orland. Jonathan Spiteri in the pit lane, so he is done for qualifying in this one, so he'll be no higher than P5, which is a bit of a shocker, to be perfectly honest with you. You've got Christian Samet as well, who's in P4. He's looking to try and improve if he can, but at the moment, I'd say actually out of nowhere, it could be the man that's not really known for his race pace. It's for his qualifying pace. Sorry, it's Denzel Agius down in P7. He's in an opportunity here to potentially improve. We'll see as he's now just approaching turn number 1. In fact, that will be it for him. And no, in fact, sorry, he's on his final lap now, so he will be pushing alongside Clint Orland.
Indeed, we enter those last laps here at Deep Forest Raceway, and of course has been the scene, it seems like tonight, of a very, very tight qualifying session, but these are going to be the last attempts as Denz backs out of it. 7th place for the 2nd place runner in the championship. Malia has backed off here, and it does seem like the end of qualifying has now happened. So, well, what a session we have had there as the last couple of cars go over the line. A complete mix-up there, and it looks like David Mifsford has even popped himself up into 3rd place. Well, this is a very mix-up grid as well. 6th, 7th, and 8th for our championship contenders. I believe also 4th for Jonathan Spiteri as well. So my word, James, this is a complete mix-up of this grid. How will these drivers go about this?
Yes, so that's P6, P7 and P8. That's Jonathan Spiteri, Denzel Agius and Daniel Malia. The championship fighters are in the midfield in 6th, 7th and 8th place. But Ayrton Birmingham showing exactly why he holds the crown at the moment up in P1 alongside John Paul Vella, who's in a good opportunity for a podium here alongside Dave Potts. So looking forward to seeing what the front three are also going to bring as well. And it's all going to be about strategy, because this is a circuit where degradation is going to be on the little bit of a high side because of the corners through turns 2, 9, and then of course the intense corners of turn 14 and the strain that you put through the tyres through 16, 17 and 18. So we're expecting a bit of a high deg circuit, so perhaps a medium tyre for the majority of the people to start on. But in the end, it is all about the Asphalt King himself, Ayrton Birmingham, leading the way from the front, from the benefit of the fact that the championship fighters are actually stuck in the midfield. We'll be taking a quick break before we get on with the race, so it should be an absolute cracker. Don't go away. Well, Polyphony Digital know their stuff when it comes to creating some pretty class fictional circuits, but I tell you what, the drivers also know how to also make a bit of a spicy affair. Of course, our front runners in this championship, 6th, 7th and 8th place respectively. The Asphalt King himself, Ayrton Birmingham, at the front in 1st place for this main race here tonight, despite the fact that he fell out of form in the first half of this season. He's really found his drive, Adam. What is he going to need to do to convert this?
For Ayrton Birmingham, it's just pretty much keep the consistent pace. You know, you're not in the moment where you're in the mid pack like the rest of your championship contenders, because he will probably be looking at thinking there is a massive opportunity for me to get the maximum amount of points tonight. And I think he's just got to keep the safe route, because any form of roll the dice, any form of kind of errors, any form of mistakes as well. It can pretty much push him down the order and relieve him of trying to defend his crown, because this is seemingly to be a very late charge. Remember, we do have about 78 points left on the board before we then go and finish the season. So I think a lot of these drivers will be keeping an idea of what needs to be done in these last couple of rounds.
Yeah, it's critical, isn't it? We're going to take a quick look at the standings again, just as a quick, a quick reminder of what's ahead of us. Of course, Jonathan Spiteri leading the way from Denzel Agius and Daniel Malia in the end, 6th, 7th, and 8th place respectively in this race. Ayrton Birmingham just tucked in behind JP Vella, both on 71 points, and 1st and 2nd to start this race as well. So the pair of them have got their own little championship battle to keep an eye out on as well. Don't forget Clint Orland always in the mix as well. Actually, a bit unfortunate to be down in 8th place, to be honest with you, because I think there's a bit more pace in Clint Orland than meets the eye. So he's got something to prove as well. Race is not just a moment away, Adam. So early indications are suggesting Ayrton Birmingham probably up there as one of the favourites. But my thought process for you on this one, very quickly, is he the favourite for this one, do you think? Or is perhaps one of the front three got what it takes to potentially climb through the rankings and take a win tonight?
I think in terms of Ayrton Birmingham situation, yes, he is the favourite, because the drivers around him are, I believe, you've got John Paul Vella in there, you've got David Mifsud, and then you've also got Clint Orland, who are, drivers that are kind of mid-range drivers. I think we've got currently JP Vella running in 4th in the championship, about Mifsud. I think that's 6th and 7th. 7th and 8th for Mifsud and Orland. Having a look at the standings on my other screen, so the little spreadsheet that I've made. But yeah, I think it will be crucial for those guys that make an early attack, especially with almost sneezed there. That stopped me in my tracks. But yeah, Ayrton definitely favourite. I think he just needs to keep his composure for tonight, and he could definitely wrap up a race win.
So, of course, we're at the Deep Forest Raceway for this one. We'll be taking a trip to the Nürburgring next week as well. It's another circuit where high deck could be a problem. And then, of course, wrapping it up at the Daytona International Speedway in just 2 weeks' time. 3 races to go then to crown our next Asphalt King. We'll be heading forward into the race in just a moment's time, I hope, because the drivers are very keen to get going on this one. I will wonder what will happen leading this way. Of course, Ayrton Birmingham, not a person unknown to the front of the grid. So let's head into the race and see what they have got coming up then. So we are waiting for the drivers to just get themselves ready and raring to go. As said, to be expected, that's Ayrton Birmingham leading from the front is going to be one that we need to keep a firm eye on. Is he going to pick a softer compound in terms of strategy, or is he going to go for maybe a later sort of strategy, start on a medium maybe? We'll see anyway, as the race info is just about to get on and the drivers are getting themselves ready for this race. Let me know what you guys think if you're watching in the chat as well. Of course, we will keep in the interactions with you throughout the next 50 minutes that is this main race. The drivers are now heading towards the start-finishing line, of course, remaining in formation for this rolling start. But when they cross that start-finishing line, the green light will appear and they will go racing here in Switzerland. No more waiting, let's go racing. Addicts then leading the way, of course, from John Paul Vella, and then in 3rd place as well, Dave Potts holding up station, and will, of course, try to hold off from an attack from the Porsche 911, that is Clint Orland. Remember, 6th, 7th and 8th have got their own little championship battle to potentially win it, but of course, John Paul Vella and Ayrton Birmingham tied on points for 4th place in the standings, and they're going to be fighting it out as well. There's a bit of dust being kicked out as people go a little bit wider. Dave Potts trying his hardest as well in that Williams-inspired Porsche 911, losing the rear ever so slightly, and onto the grass passes Clint Orland. Might be under a little bit of pressure from Christian Samet in this one. First sector split completed. Round this right-hander. Want to keep it tight as you can to the apex before going underneath the tunnel. Then taking the left-hander and then chucking the car through this section of corners where, of course, you've got Daniel Malia keeping that pressure on Denzel Agius. It's a great performance from him. Going into turn 10, critical corner this one. Get this one wrong and you lose all that time down this really long back straight.
Indeed, a really good start there from Ayers in Birmingham. We really need that, but we'll have to see what the battles in behind are saying, because you see there, look at that, already David Mifton and Clint Orland running in very close proximity, and Clint Orland's going to go for a potential move here. He's just trying to get in the mirrors of his fellow Porsche, and the two fantastic livery just driving away. And we'll have to see what the middle pack does as well, because those three championship contenders still haven't moved whatsoever. They're still building into their race here. We now see Malia under pressure here from Owen Kassar. What is going on with that Nissan? It just does not seem to have the same momentum that he did the early part of the season. Of course, Daniel Malia currently with 3 podium in the last 3 races. He's now battling for 8th place, a complete switch up from what we saw a week ago.
Oh, getting really close as well, and I think it's going to put him into the gravel as well, as Owen Kassar going side by side there with Daniel Malia, and he caught him on the rear. He stepped out and he's put him straight into the wall, and I think the stewards will take a dim view potentially on one of the drivers in this one, potentially Malia. He's in P8 and he'll now need to chase down the likes of Denzel Agius and Jonathan Spiteri. And remember, Malia's in his own championship battle, so every penalty point that falls against him is going to be so critical when the penalties are applied, and of course he may lose positions as a result. Speaking of which, Chris Samet's going to get a half a second lift-off penalty for track extension issues already in just the second lap of this race. There it'll go. Then here comes then Jonathan Spiteri, gets the move done and puts a car between him and his championship rival in Denzel Agius. He's now to 5th.
Yeah, Denzel Agius will need something like this to happen to try and get through the next car here, because remember, he does lay 8 points behind coming into this race tonight, and he'll really need to try and build on whatever he had. But that qualifying would have been a real dent to his confidence, and he's just had to build himself back up once again. They cross over the line, start lap 3 of this race. Jonathan Spiteri now under attack here from Christian Samet in towards the first corner. The Mercedes just trying to navigate that first opening part, but it's then in toward this section where the McLaren will probably have the advantage with this slick aero package compared to the same, which is very bulky and made for the corners like you know your Tamburello and Imola and down that back straight. So once Samet does get on that back straight, he should be in a good position to try and pass his way past Spiteri, but yeah, it won't be easier said than done.
What I'm a bit concerned about already in this one, Adam, though, is the tyre degradation already. Now, it might only be a sliver off of the top at the moment with that little red bar just starting to appear, but this is only the 3rd lap of this race, and I would say at least 5 or 6% already on the tyres that are mediums as well. So they are going to have to really consider the long-term game in this one and what we expect to be a 34-lap race, but of course it's all about timing. It's a 50-minute race. Clint Orland going a little bit wide out there, could end up posing a little bit of trouble for him if he didn't lift off too much. He's just got away with it. John Paul Vella is now starting to look behind him. No, Clint Orland didn't get away with it. He did get a 5/10 penalty for that track extension, so he will now serve that one on the main straight down at the back, so that could invite Dave Potts back into the mix as well. So he does get the fastest lap of this race, but he's gone wide as well going through turn number 1. That definitely will invite Dave Potts into the battle when that penalty has to be served at the slowdown section. Up across the hill then, chuck the car through the right-hander, and you'll want to try and keep as close as you possibly can. Dirty air really playing effect though on that Rothmans Williams-inspired, 90s Williams-inspired Porsche 911, and a second penalty now for Dave Potts as well, and that could invite, guess who? Jonathan Spiteri.
Indeed, that's going to be a big moment in this race. Yes, it's the early stages, but every lap there is something changing here, and we now keep on tabs here with Spiteri in his papaya white and black McLaren. He will now see those two slowing down, and it will just urge him to now get into a position where he could find a way through. Let's have a look and see what happens here with David Nissen. The brakes are fully on. They will blast past the Porsche. Easy stuff, as you say there, James, but in toward the hairpin. He is now looking at a podium position, and the championship leader will now have to go on a bit of a charge here. Meanwhile, Denzel Agius, the new driver from Project Amatio, still stuck behind the Porsche and the Mercedes.
We know that Denzel Agius plays the long game though, so he might not be at full chat in that Lexus. So keep a very firm eye on that one. But that slowdown penalty at this circuit is so painful. You've got to make sure you stay within the track limits, because you could face a big challenge. Bit of a wiggle on from Dave Potts. Chris Sammut up to 5th, but Jonathan Spiteri now up to 4th place, trying to chase down Clint Orland, albeit now 1.8 and 1.9 seconds behind him. While this is all happening, he's keeping a very firm eye on the performance of Denzel Agius and Daniel Malia, who again haven't made any progress, and has now got 2 cars separating him from his championship co-compatriots. So that is going to give Jonathan Spiteri some very early boost of confidence, maybe, I think, Adam.
It might do. We'll have to see how it all pans out. But you see there, the Mercedes of Christian Sammut this time around is in prime position. Jonathan Spiteri, no slipstream to be found. So we'll have to see what the Mercedes does in terms of making an overtake. We'll run on board here momentarily with the eye camera. We'll go on board with the top camera, the roof camera, to continue to just gain the deception with that McLaren. But later on, the brakes, it seems like, and I think also there was a bit of fuel saving. You saw that McLaren just start blasting off towards the braking zone, and the Mercedes just so backing off. So that is fuel saving being done there by Christian Sammut. He's okay to let that position go by. They now climb up the hill, just staying within half a second. I think that's what they need to do. And look at that. Oh my word. David's Mifsud is going to send it up the inside of the Rossman's livery to fend a maneuver from Sammut. There's contact between the two, and the Mercedes will just hold on by. Denzel looking at this like, I want a piece of this, but he's got to be careful here, James.
Yeah, I'm going to keep calling him Dave Potts. It's always do know it's David Knisford, but he is absolutely bump drafting Chris Sammut up there. And this is what I mean. He had a really horrible turn 14 after losing the rear. Looks like he bottomed out on the curb, and that just invited Dave Potts or David Knisford into the actual battle. Bump drafted him all the way down towards turn 1, but couldn't find the space to make the move. So now he's going to consider the long-term game. Is Chris Sammut beginning to struggle? Is he trying to find a little bit of comfort out there? Or is Dave Potts, Dave Knisford, in a better position to potentially make the overtake? One thing that we know is for certain, though, is the McLaren and the Mercedes power unit is usually a lot more powerful on the main straights than the Porsches. So the question is, will the Porsches be able to keep up in any kind of battle as they heading towards the next corner, of course, of turn number 14? This is where we saw the mistake from Chris Sammut on occasion. Has he learnt his lesson? He chucks the car through the left-hander, takes an earlier apex on this occasion, so then he doesn't take as much curb, and a lot more cleaner from Chris Sammut.
He is. We'll have to see how that all pans out. Oh, what happened to what has happened to Denzel Agius? Denzel Agius had a massive error, and I think he has spun it. That is pretty much the well, I wasn't going to say championship wrapped up, but that is a massive confidence booster to Jonathan Spiteri. He's almost been put on a pedestal. He's that close to potentially claiming a crown. But remember, who is in the lead of this race is Ayrton Birmingham.
Interesting situation, I think, is that Daniel Malia has actually given the position back up to Denzel Agius. So I'm wondering if Daniel's made an overtake at some point on Denzel Agius, and Daniel's then gone, oh, that was a bit of a clumsy move, I'm going to give you the position back. And they've lost 10 seconds on that previous lap as a result, and that is just going to make Jonathan Spiteri smile from ear to ear underneath that helmet in his McLaren. He doesn't need to actually push as aggressively now to catch Clint Orland, and you can tell he's not doing that because he's now fallen from 1.9 to about 3 seconds back from the podium. So he's now considering the long-term game here, because now his co-compatriots are well off the pace.
They are, and I wonder if Sammut's going to go for a move here. He's been eyeing it up the last lap here, but in towards the braking zone, he'll just get in the mirror and then just not do a thing here. With let's just say that in a scenario where Spiteri does fall behind these positions, he will fall to 6th, so he'll only get 10 points, meaning that Ayrton Birmingham will get a 16-point swing if it ended like that. But that is not what Spiteri wants. He wants to be keeping himself concealed in 4th place at the minute, and he will do whatever he possibly can, whether that be strategy, whether that be very defensive driving. I think that he is somebody who will be very much willing to risk that 4th place despite being in the Championship League. He won't want to give up that position easy whatsoever, despite the challenges from other places. Meanwhile, look at that, Mr. is just all over the back of Salmon. I think he's just trying to say, press on, my friend, we've got to get past this guy.
Yeah, he's exactly thinking that at the moment. He just wants to get this move done, because Jonathan Spiteri is now starting to put a little bit of a gap between him and Chris Sammett. So Dave Potts, Dave Misford, will be hoping that he can get this move done. Now the question is does that 911 have enough power to potentially put a bit of a challenge on that Mercedes? We'll see here with the toe going down towards turn number 14. It's going to be critical here that Chris Sammett holds on, and it looks to me as if he's going to hold on no issue at all. So Dave Potts will now have to consider and hope that Sammett, who is already been a guilty party of an issue at turn number 14, does the same thing again. Earlier apex, so he's trying to keep off the curbs, and I think Chris Sammett is very aware now that bottoming out on that curb will lose you so much time, because if you can't get the power down early enough, you become an extremely vulnerable victim to an overtake all the way through here till you get back to turn 1. Dave Potts getting closer and closer and closer. Is the movement potentially going to go for the inside line, or is he going to hold station? He holds station, and he's going to continue putting that pressure on the Mercedes.
Really will, and that is going to be continuous all throughout. But you just saw there Sammett through the corner seems to be really positive. He was about 9/10 going over the line, but then into the first corner just absolutely reels him in like a fish in water, and Spiteri will now be under pressure once again. I really do wonder how all of these drivers are really playing it, because I think that maybe could Sammett be potentially just saving behind Spiteri and trying to maybe overtake him in the second stint? Also, for maybe potential Formula 1 fans that are in chat or watching the live stream, it's not like in terms of strategy, it is not like the rules of Formula 1 where you have to use 2 different sets of compounds, where you have to use a medium and a soft, or a medium and a hard. They can go medium if they wanted to, if it does suit their car. If the surface is so abrasive and the tyres do get destroyed, they will pretty much pick the middle mark with their medium tyre in the first stint, go on to a second with another set of medium compound tyres. They can do that, so keep an eye out for what they're doing. Let's have a look and see what our front pack is doing, because Clint Orland still just a little bit back here from Ayrton Birmingham in that scarlet red Ferrari inspired Porsche. That's a mouthful to say. Still just sitting about 1.3 seconds as well, and of course, that with Clint Orland now sitting in second, he's got a decent opportunity to go for the win. But how much is his car maximised to? Because he's been up at the heights of almost at a podium place. But the last time we saw that, I think it was in Austria, he did make a mistake. So yeah, he just needs to be very, very careful about what he's doing and really keep himself calm, I think.
Yeah, of course, making the overtake on John Paul Vella in the last couple of laps, so managing to rise up to P2. Is he going to put any pressure, though, on the Asphalt King in front of him, though, at the moment? Gap 1.6, I would suggest that perhaps the move is not quite there at the moment to put any kind of pressure on a man who's really found his form in this second half of this Asphalt Kings Championship. Back down to the battle, if you don't mind, for P4, because Chris Sammett has actually put a little bit of a gap now on Dave Potts, David Misford. So now he's going to think, could I potentially put some pressure here on let's be honest, the championship winner in waiting, the championship elect, if you will, in Jonathan Spiteri with this performance so far. As you can see, not even in the top 8 at the moment, so his compatriots, they're still struggling at the back of the field to catch up after colliding earlier on. And I have a sneaky suspicion, as I was just about to say this, but Brandon has said exactly the same thing as he's just letting us know. It was a bit of a late breaker through turn 1, though, for a later apex as a result. Chris Sammett, I think, is a little bit more on the content side to just hook in P5 and just stick to the battle to Spiteri, as long as he doesn't lose too much time and invite David Misford back into the battle.
Indeed, we'll have to see how that all kind of pans out as well, because it's going to be a really tough situation for a lot of these drivers. They're really having to manage, but also go on the attack and also go on the defence. Look at Samuel Christian Salmon, his situation at the moment, because he's trying to save whatever he possibly can in the tyres, but save whatever he possibly can in the fuel. He's trying to go on the attack there, Jonathan Spiteri, but making a mistake like that will leave him vulnerable to the Porsche behind of David Nixon. So he's really having to manage the situation. But as you said and pointed out there, James, and of course our director as well, he's just happy to sit in there and save, save what he can, and then maybe go all out for the second stint. I think that's what a lot of the drivers will potentially do. So very similar to the Red Bull Ring, we are looking at a slow burner race, ladies and gentlemen. But just stay with us, because who knows what can happen in the last couple of moments in this race. Just have a look at what happened last time at the Red Bull Ring. Of course, if you're here for it, then of course you know. If you weren't, just go back and have a look at the last lap of last week's Asphalt King Street. You know what we're talking about. But this is the trio we're all kind of focusing on, because this could be a real championship changer. This could really just flip the table on its head.
33 minutes and 17 seconds left in this race so far. Slow burner is what we're calling for here. If you don't mind, I'd like to also do a little bit of an exploration, not just of those in P1 through 3 or 4 through 6, but also a battle for P8 as well. This is the one between Owen Kassar, who is battling really hard at the moment with good old Ozzy. This is the battle for P7 at the moment, actually, I should rather say. Now, Ozzy doesn't really get that much time out there at the moment on, in the streams, but he's not racing too bad here tonight with the situation with Denzel Agius and, of course, Daniel Malia early on. He's got a good opportunity to earn some good points here tonight in his BMW. The question is will the impediment or the impeding Supra potentially put pressure on Ozzy, I wonder, as he just chucks his car now into turn number 14. Again, a critical corner in this one. The question is that will Osbert himself be under any pressure potentially from the Toyota Supra? It looks like it to me. Owen Kassar has had the better exit out of turn number 14, so he's going to continue to get the toe, and the Toyota power unit powering his way all the way up to turn 1 could go for the late breaker going into turn number 1 here, as Owen Kassar looking to try and capitalise on perhaps a mistake back at turn 14, gets the move done. Down the inside Ozzy will go, and Osbert will try his hardest to defend this one, but the front end grip of that Supra showing an absolute treat to get a switchback, and a fabulous move from Owen Kassar. They still go side by side, but surely the move is done, and fabulous stuff indeed from Owen Kassar in the Supra, who's now up to 7th.
Superb move there from Owen Kassar. Look at that, just bringing Denzel Agius now into the battle. That is going to be something that Denz will be enlightened by. So that will be very much one he has to go and take on, because he is down there in 9th. He will get very little points for his efforts as well. He's had a very difficult race tonight, of course. Remember, if you aren't a Gran Turismo player, there's no safety cars whatsoever. So if somebody spins or just stops on the road, but there's no chance of a safety car or whatever. You're just plain out racing, and Denz will go for the move here on Osbert Schwedem, and down the inside he will go at the hairpin section. It's a good move there. Just have to try and get the exit here on the BMW, and will indeed get the exit on the BMW. Now you can go after chasing Owen Kassar, and then maybe just fill in the void between Potsy and this little tussle there. But Osbert Schwedem's not giving this one up that easy. He's still pulling himself alongside, but who will be last of the late breakers here on this one? It will be the Lexus right on cue.
Osbert Schwedem's just starting to struggle a little bit now. He's just realising people able to get on the power a little bit earlier than him at the moment, and he is currently residing now in P9. Back to the front, by the way, folks. We have had another change for P2, as Jean-Paul Vella has re-overtaken the position for P2 against Clint Orland. So trading positions back in the formation that they once were, but the gap now about 3 seconds to Ayrton Birmingham, which is just a testament at the moment to the man who is just showing that this season well, it is a little bit of a write-off, but the pace was always there. He just needed to unlock his potential.
Indeed he did, and well, for John Paul Vella, that gap is, I think, almost, it's definitely doubled, maybe like double and a half, I'd say, at this rate, but these two are continuously going at it, and I think it's just because they don't want to work with themselves. These guys just have very, very little been on the podium, you know. John Paul Vella, last time he was on the podium was back at Kyoto. Finn Forden got his best finish of fourth at Spa, which feels like an age ago. These guys are going to go absolutely hammer and tong, but yeah, they don't see a win on the cards, unfortunately. So these two will really be having to work their way forward, or they're going to have to play the strategy card and just slam that down on the table, whilst Ayrton Birmingham is very much keeping a solid lead out in front.
And then, of course, remember there's still a battle happening as well for fourth between Jonathan Spiteri, Chris Summit, and Dave Potts, and a half a second penalty for Jonathan Spiteri. A very, very rare scenario there from the championship winner-elect at the moment, fourth place, and he will fall quite a significant margin. The slowdown just about to appear if we go on board with Dave Potts, actually, if you don't mind, Mr. Director, because I'm going to be very interested to see if he does manage to get through. Chris Samet, no doubt, will have this one, no issue. There goes the brakes. Spiteri falls to fifth. He'll also fall to sixth. That half a second penalty, again, it's just so critical on this circuit. That slowdown is so painful, and Spiteri, who was on for potentially a nice solid fourth place finish, now has to battle his way back up again.
Absolutely. We'll have to see how that all pans out again, because Spiteri, with that penalty, that is a big penalty as well, and that just opens up the gap. As I say, 16 points in swinging for Ayrton Birmingham as well. He will be in a big old position now. David Misford has now seen the light to try and go after P4. This will probably be his best finish to date as well, if he can get past that Mercedes AMG, but they don't want to battle too hard. Do you really want to be battling with the championship leader, or do you want to be pushing on and just keeping yourself company here? Let's see what the second sit said, because of course we've seen it before where Spiteri went on a set of soft tyres at the beginning. I believe this was back at it's Kyoto. No, I think it was it was Kyoto, I believe. No, I'm double backing myself here. I think it was San Juan. It was San Juan. So where Spiteri went on a set of softs in the first stint, absolutely blitzed it, went on a set of mediums, completely fell off, went from first down to fourth. So we're still waiting for that kind of breaking point where we will get a couple of drivers maybe into the pit lane here, but I think they will spread it across between maybe the 26th and the 32nd minute into this race. So, you know, we're about 3, maybe 2.5 minutes into what could potentially be strategies, pit stops, drama, all the lot that you need in this race.
You mentioned the Circuit de Saint-Croix. It's a circuit that obviously I wasn't the commentator for on that one. I was on holiday, but I was sipping gin on the Cornish coast while watching that particular race, and I tell you, with the amount of gin that I drunk, unfortunately, I can remember about half of it. But what I do remember of it was a very intense race, as this one is starting to develop. And I'm telling you, Misford is really trying his hardest to put Samet under pressure here for P4. They've recognised the opportunity of clearly the faster driver in this championship, struggling with the track limits issues, and now they're just managing their own race pace. And Jonathan Spiteri is a man who will, let's be honest, want to be in a position to capitalise on the mistakes of Denzel Agius and Daniel Malia. But if you take a look at Jonathan Spiteri, look who's behind him. Is Denzel Agius. So as it stands, yes, there is a significant margin of 7 seconds. He's managed to find 3 seconds after the spin, so to be fair to Denzel Agius, he's really starting to reel it in. But Jonathan Spiteri is only going to gain a small chunk of points against Denzel Agius, and in the long-term ramifications of this championship, 6th place is not what Jonathan Spiteri needs right now. He needs to be back in front of Misford and Samet.
He does. It will be massively crucial to see, you know, what they are, what do they do in this situation. But of course, I think the strategy card is the one you put down in this case. But yeah, he's just having a look around the fields, around the circuit. You've got Ayrton Birmingham in a really strong place. You've got John Paul Veller and Clint Orland batting away with the big opportunity of Orland being the 7th podium sitter. This one, you just spotted there Mifsud as well. Yeah, he is very much keeping himself on the limits. You say, as I said in the beginning of the broadcast, it's a race where you want to be keeping the limits of this racetrack. You just have to be on them, not over them. Otherwise, you are going to be costed massively. And we'll just have to see how this all kind of works out here. Denzel Adges is in a bit of a difficult situation as well here, because of course he's running about 7.5 seconds behind Jonathan Spiteri. I don't think he's using a lot of the tyres, and there you go. The gap has maybe come down just that little bit, but it's only about 0.3 of a second, maybe 0.2 in that fact. So it's not a massive gain. It'll take all race long to catch up to that fight. But looking at the tyre situation, it's starting to get a little bit dire for the front rights here, because it's an anti-clockwise circuit. The front rights are going to be used more, and this little tussle is still going on. But Dent is just trying to edge away as much as he possibly can. And this is the big moment here. We're going to look at Mifsud going for the move here on Sammons. You'll have the inside line. Porsche up to second.
And that's why turn number 14 is so critical. Chris Sabat clearly not getting the better exit. Not the better exit out of turn number 1, though, from Misford, but surely not an overtake on the cards here for Chris Sabat. But that is what it's all about. That turn number 14 complex is so critical. And if you get that one right, you're in a real prime position to make the overtake. Now, he's going to consider his options. Does he have the pace to potentially close up that 5.5 second gap to Clint Orland, or does he have to consider the long-term ramifications of this and head on to another set of mediums, as we're now over halfway in this race, as the circuit is starting to get a little bit hazy out on circuit now. The sun's starting to set a little bit now beneath the horizon, so it might just get a little bit darker as well with the next 20 minutes of racing to go. Denzel Adge is still in 7th, of course. He's still battling with the likes of Owen Kassar, who actually, to be fair to Owen, he is holding station within around about 1 second of Denzel Adge, so, and as a result of that, him and Ozzy at the moment are actually getting a good chunk of help. And actually, I think Ozzy's under a little bit of pressure from the 10th place man here as well, of Daniel Mallia. Daniel Mallia looking like he might go for the move potentially at some point against Ozzy, but as it stands so far, there it is. The move is done and dusted. So Mallia does get the move done on Ozzy after going wide. Hopefully Ozzy won't get a time penalty actually for that track extension. No, he got away with it because I think he lost time more than he gained. While this is all happening, by the way, Jonathan Spiteri has had enough. He's now pitted earlier than perhaps others are anticipating. Clint Orland doing exactly the same thing as well to get off of those old medium tyres. A new set of medium tyres now going on the car to the end of this race, and he's now got to fuel a significant margin. The question is, what's it going to be in comparison to Clint Orland, of course, who was in front of him by a considerable margin? 55, 56, 57, 60%. We're going to continue charging up there, 70% on the fuel. We're going to keep filling it up, and 79% is what Clint Orland's put in for a fresh set of soft tyres. Jonathan Spiteri is also leaving with slightly less fuel, also on a set of soft tyres. He's going all out here. He doesn't want to finish fourth. He's thinking about Clint Orland here.
That is a massive change in here to this title. They're looking at trying to push for 20 minutes here, so that will be a very, very tough ask. But yeah, the minute I saw soft tyres, my eyes completely lit up there. Yeah, both on soft tyres as well. This is going to be big here with Ayrton Birmingham now coming into the pits as well here. So he is going to be followed in by John Paul Veller, and so is Christian Samet. And it looks like now David Mifsud will now go on through, and the BMW is serviced and onto a set there, I believe, of medium compound tyres. That will definitely get him to the end.
Looks like a set of medium tyres now on the car. Fueling now is the question. So it was about 73% for the likes of Jonathan Spiteri. It was about 80 for Clint Orland. Of course, Jonathan Spiteri trying to save as much time as he possibly can. Malia has also stayed out, by the way, so he's now up to P2. There goes Ayrton Birmingham, a fresh set of soft tyres now on the BMW with plenty of fuel, a little bit over 70%, and a set of soft tyres, as said, for Jonathan for Ayrton Birmingham. It's also a set of soft tyres as well for John Paul Vella, so they think they can take the soft tyres the distance, and I wouldn't blame them, to be fair, because the medium tyres did actually hold up a little bit better than perhaps what we thought. Jonathan Spiteri has not managed to get the jump on those in front, and he will stick behind Clint Orland, staying in P6, but he's got a 2.5 second gap to Chris Samet. Remember, he was racing with him a lot earlier on, but of course he has now got significantly less fuel, has Jonathan Spiteri, because of course he decided to leave his pit box earlier because he's thinking about the battle with Clint Orland.
He is as well. It depends on where a lot of these drivers are thinking. So Samet definitely is thinking about pushing as much as he possibly can to the end, and this is a suspected stop. In comes David Mifsford. I believe he's going to be followed in as well by Daniel Malia as well, and right on cue in comes no, that's Malia going through, my apologies. So yeah, that kind of took my brain as well. So the Rothmans car inspired livery is in the pits here. This is Ayrton Birmingham climbing the hill, and he is in an absolute world of space. And
box as well. I'm sorry, just to interrupt on this one. John Paul Vella, Clint Orland, there goes Jonathan Spiteri. Potts is still in his pit box, leaving with just 68% fuel and a fresh set of soft tyres. Denzel Agius, is he going to get the jump? Chris Samet has certainly, but Denzel Agius hasn't, so he stays in P8, does the Lexus, as Potsy are now up to P7. Chris Samet has managed to get the jump, and the undercut working an absolute treat in that battle with David Mifsford. Jonathan Spiteri up into P5, still battling with Clint Orland. John Paul Vella in P3 overall as well, but there is a little bit of a gap at the moment with Ayrton Birmingham in his provisional P1 slot, his net P1 rather, because of course Daniel Malia is still yet to make his pit stop. He's going to go considerably later with this particular strategy, which means he can actually do qualifying lap after qualifying lap after qualifying lap in his Nissan GTR, and that is typically where we see Malia at his best. So don't count your chickens out of that basket. He now enters the pit lane with 0% in fuel.
Wow, that's on the limit stuff there. So he's going to have to probably fuel that up to about 65%, maybe
like
60. Yeah, you're kind of playing a little bit of a game here with how much fuel do you want. But I'd go with 60%, to be honest. I would try and maybe just jump Dent here, because that is your main competitor here. And if you maybe push Dent down a little bit, that would be absolutely wonderful for your title chances. You know, you jump a championship rival as well, but you're just kind of focusing as well on Spiteri, who now runs in P4 here. So we'll have to see how the rest of his race turns out, because look at that, he is right behind now the podium sitters, and Samet is another world away as well. But Orland is on the fringes here of losing his podium, as Samet continues to struggle through that first sector.
Yeah, the soft tyre not working actually too well on that Mercedes at the moment, so Mifsford just putting that pressure on Potts. While this is all happening, Malia, by the way, the overcut was never going to work. He wasn't going to get out in front of Denzel Agius, so that he has managed to stick just in front of the battle with Ilmore in the Toyota Supra. So, you know, the bottom line is that Owen Kassar is probably not going to get anywhere near the likes of Daniel Malia, but remember, Malia can now do qualifying lap runs pretty much to the end of this race now. The end of this race is in about 15 minutes time, and the gap is around about 5 seconds or 5.5 seconds to Denzel Agius. So I think Malia is going to close up that gap, and he's going to close it up pretty quickly, but he needs to find what we're saying. We're going to need probably at least a second every lap for the next sort of, if he could get a second lap, a second every 2 or 3 laps rather, he probably will be in good position to battle with Denzel towards the end of this race. And remember, of course, Malia will actually have the better tyres while this is all happening. Denzel is responding. He's just set a purple final sector and a purple lap overall. He's the fastest man on circuit at the moment in the Lexus.
as a crucial stat to have as well. That kind of strikes a little bit of fear into your opponents, especially if you're Sam and Misford. But I don't know if he's thinking that 5th place is the only good position he can be on the road here. But he's got to be maybe ahead of Jonathan Spiteri if possible. But that is a big ask for someone like Denzel Adgis, who really took his time in the opening, since he usually does. But then it kind of all disassembled due to that spin that was caused by Daniel Malia. And you just thinking that is there anything that can be recoverable at this rate? Well, it's going to be a big tough ask, but I think there is definitely something out there. He's just got to keep himself in contention, and contention I'm sure he'll keep himself in.
Yeah, Clint Orland is now getting in his own battle with John Paul Bella from P2. As long as these two are battling, Jonathan Spiteri will be very happy, because it means that he can just hang fire and just watch them battle and gain time and time again. Clint Orland getting closer and closer. Is he going to look for the move potentially into turn 1? He's going to have to go around the outside. John Paul Bella making it abundantly clear. I've got the inside of turn 1, you can't have it. So he'll go so much later on the brakes in that 911. They'll go side by side throughout turn number 1, but the traction is on the outside line, and the 911 will have this one done and dusted, no doubt, went down the left-hand side and around the outside to have the inside. Clint Orland holds on, and he has P2 out of the hands of John Paul Vella. They continue to battle though. Jonathan Spiteri will be happy to get in this battle as well. Gap for him and this battle is about 1.2.
Yeah, so good, Clint Orland. I gave you so good, Clint Orland. I gave you a round of applause. Just had to double check the name there, but yeah, Clint Orland, I applaud you on that one. That was a superb move to boldly go around the outside on that sort of soft compound tyre. But look at the tyres now; they're starting to really burn up here with what's that now going to be 13 minutes left on the clock. I'm not entirely sure if anyone's going to have anything left in the last 5 minutes. This is going to be a very, very tough run. And we now look back here to the likes of Nicholson and Sammers here down in towards the turn 14 hairpin. And he's just starting to lose that little bit of touches, Christian Sammer. He's doing whatever he possibly can there, but it just doesn't seem enough. We'll have to keep an eye on that fiery car of Denzel Adgis for the new Project Versio driver. Is really pushing on to see if he can open up anything and open those opportunities to damage limitate his championship challenge. He's allowed to have a very big 2 rounds in Nürburgring and Daytona if he wants to do anything about it. But it's in Birmingham. Oh, yeah, you're right on that one. It's in Birmingham. He's got to do the same, have a massive last 2 rounds. And my word, is he going to be in for a huge opportunity here. I think we now see David Misford all over the back of the Mercedes. He probably knows he's struggling as well. He's just trying to find a way through.
Chris Sammett's been struggling a little bit in that Mercedes now for a few laps. He had a couple of decent laps actually in the last couple of occasions with the 27.2. As you can see, there is a lack of consistency ever since going on to the soft tyre with that 29.1, 27.5, 27.2. Then he found another 27.2 on the last occasion. So Chris Sammet has managed to just start to find consistency, but because of that lack of consistency a few laps ago, Misford is starting to get really up close and personal. And of course, Denzel Adgis is desperate to gain some position, so if he sees an opening, he will go for it. Going then into turn number 14, no gaps there though, sir, so he will hang fire in his Project Versio Lexus, and here he comes then. He's actually had a really good exit out of turn 14, so suddenly out of nowhere, Misford might be under a little bit of pressure here from the championship hopeful. He'll have to go down the inside then of the next corner because it's looking like he's holding on to the outside. Will Dave Misford, is he going to hold on to the station? Is Denzel Adgis going to go for the late breaker? He's certainly looking for it. Later on the brakes on the inside line, he touches the grass, then of course the traction is on the outside, but the move is already done and dusted. So Denzel Adgis, after a cracking turn 14, once again gets the move done at turn number 1. Chris Sammet throws a lot of dirt into the face of Denzel Adgis. It does not faze him. He's up to P6. He's chasing P5.
Indeed, and he's also just cut that gap down to a 4-point loss to Jonathan Spiteri, and if he can get past that P5 man, you only lose 2 points there, so not too bad from what was a dismal qualifying spot but I think his championship rival has just moved forward faster than he has, and we'll have to see if that Lexus is going to prowl on for an overtake here, because he's only got 10 minutes left. He's very much running a big risk here. Does he want to send it from so far back? I'm not entirely sure, because you see the Lexus here is gaining, but he just hasn't quite got it. We'll see what the exit is like. We'll see if he can replicate what he got there on Misfit a couple of laps ago. And look at that. That is a bigger nose from the Lexus that we saw last time around. He's going to just stick in the slipstream here. Come on, Dent. Is he going to roar up the hill, roar up the hill and on toward the main straight here? Will he go for the move? He's in the toe and on toward the outside line. He's being pushed there by the Mercedes. It's a strong defense from Sam, and the door is in and out, allowed be opened on that inside line. We just have to sit on the back here. Crucial stages for our project, for our championship hopeful.
Mistake on the curb, but gets the better exit as a result of that little mistake. But he's lost a little bit of time to Chris Salmon then in this first sector as a result of this one. Denzel Agius is hoping actually that he can take P5, because that would be a pretty good damage limitation race, because of course Jonathan Spiteri is stuck a little bit now in P4. He's trying his hardest to get past John Paul Bella and Clint Orland, but that half-a-second penalty that he received for track extensions only a few laps ago has clearly costed dearly for the championship winner-elect, to say the least. Here we are on board now with Misford. Just watching Denzel Agius here. There's going to be no overtake, we don't think, from the likes of Agius, but he certainly will get closer and closer and closer. Now we know his turn 14 has been absolutely precise over the last few laps. Is it going to be the same again? Apex looks pretty good on the power very early, but Chris Samet has matched him. I don't think there's going to be overtake on this occasion, but it might be mighty close. Here they come then up the hill towards the start finishing line. Final couple of corners of 17 and 18. Will the Lexus make his written road? Will he look for the move? It's an early braking indicator that he's going to use the inside line. He's going to try and go down the inside anyway, though. It's Denzel Agius. It's a cracking move against the Mercedes, and Denzel Agius's defence to try and put Jonathan Spiteri under pressure with his championship. It is a great effort indeed, and he's trying his hardest to defend here from this battle, and he is doing a great job indeed in his defence of what has been a really bad race from Denzel Agius, and it is a great recovery drive from the man and the legend that is Denzel Agius when it comes to GT7 racing. His race pace is just impeccable.
It is indeed. All the superlatives there to Denzel Agius, but I don't think he's going to be closing a 5-second gap anytime soon, unless you want to maybe try gaining a second a lap. Denz, I'm not too sure about that, but yeah, if possible, we'll see. Jonathan Spiteri also sitting there in fourth. I want to keep on board with him, because look at that. Wow, Clint Orland has got a half-a-second penalty, and that is going to now allow JS19 to put himself in a position where he can go and take a podium. This is some big moments here in this championship race, and Spiteri had just been given an absolute lifeline here. This is going to be absolutely huge in this title race as well, and if he can get the podium, well, we'll have to see how that all pans out. But yeah, he just went over the penalty line. Yeah, clumsy. That might have been the answer there. We'll have to see how that all pans out.
Yes, the bottom line is that it's probably a little bit of a clumsy effort there from Clint Orland. They've all been keeping in formation for so long that he's probably got a little bit lackadaisical, lost his concentration, and the game has slapped him with that half-a-second penalty. That will invite Jonathan Spiteri back into the fight. But I tell you what, Clint Orland is doing a very good effort to try and put enough of a gap versus him and Jonathan Spiteri, but because of the area where you end up having to commit to the slowdown penalty, you lose more than just that half a second on slowdown. You lose so much time. There's the brake lights. Is he going to get the move done? He dives to the inside line as Clint Orland. He's trying to defend it, but this speed differential is so large. He goes for the brake anyway. He's still there, and I tell you what, Clint Orland absolutely magnificent considering the half a second slowdown. He has kept Jonathan Spiteri behind, but Jonathan Spiteri definitely had the better exit out of turn number 14. We know that corner is critical for a move going into turn 1. Up the hill, he'll go side by side with Clint Orland. This is critical, of course, for the championship. Jonathan Spiteri is around the outside of turn number 1. Clint Orland will defend it by braking as late as he possibly can, and it's a little bit of a late breaker from Jonathan Spiteri, and he's trying to get the switch back, but the traction is simply not there. Clint Orland is defending like a lion out there at the moment, but he's still being pushed around the circuit from the McLaren. He will continue to keep that pressure on. No overtaking slots available right now, but turn number 10 all the way through to turn number 14 could be another opportunity for the championship winner-elect.
Indeed as well, and JS and Spiteri now thinking about this, saying, well, this is not what I want either, and Denzel Adjis is bringing his board along with him, because look at that gap now down to 3.5 seconds to Spiteri, and if he wants to go battling at him again, feel free to do so, but if Spiteri is wise to the cause, I think he will be looking at that gap thinking, it's just not worth it. I'll just stick in fourth. I get points over Dent, I get points over Malia, but I will lose points over Addicts, but that's okay. I don't mind don't mind that too much. So I think he will just have to stick in fourth and just stop with the fighting of Clint Orland. As much as he wants that podium, then that will be a massive hit to the side, because if he continues to jostle away with Clint Orland, then yeah, it will just lead onto a point where they're just falling into the clutches of a championship rival. So I think he's dropped back now to say to himself, don't battle with Orland, you're just losing a hunk of time. And you can already see that gap is starting to minimise, but at a steady rate compared to what he was doing with that podium spot in sight.
The 8th, please, if you don't mind, Derek. So we'll have a look at Daniel Malia, because he, of course, pitted a lot later than everyone else, so he has got fresher soft tyres. Now, the question is everyone going to start falling off the cliff edge, minus the pun, of course, this race on the cliff edge? Is everyone going to fall off a cliff edge at a fast enough pace that Malia could welcome himself back into this party? Gap is 8 seconds to Dave Potts and Mifsford. I tell you what, this race strategy for so far for Daniel Malia, another championship hopeful, has been abysmal. Owen Kassar behind him, just about to serve his half a second penalty. So, question here for you then. Ayrton Birmingham is leading this race. It should be a fairly clean-cut win here for the current Asphalt King. John Paul Vella, Clint Orland in their own little battle at the moment for P2 and P3. Jonathan Spiteri is now starting, I'll be honest with you, to fall off a little bit against Clint Orland. What is happening to that man? Has he been caught off guard perhaps by just how quick how quick Clint Orland was to defend from that one? Or is he now starting to think, I've got to look after these tyres because there's a cliff edge about to fall?
Indeed, you'll have a look at the tyres and just think to yourself, wow, they have gone right off here. I think it's a mixture. I think it's Spiteri thinking my tyres are going off. I'm surprised about that. He's also thinking, if I don't battle with Clint, if I just sit back, I won't be losing a lot of time here to Dent. So I think it's a mixture of the both, because look, Dent isn't gaining at all as well here. So he is pretty much on the ragged edge as well. Just believe that McLaren is really running in a zone where it's just good enough to continue to grab point, because I think he knows he's wisest course here. 3 rounds left, including this one. After it'll be 2, and he will have a big points lead. I think that gap will go to 10 points in favour of the McLaren over the Lexus if he can just stay on the racetrack.
I've got a working theory for you, actually. I don't think it's the tyres Jonathan Spiteri is worried about. I think he's worried about fuel, because remember, he left his pit box a lot earlier, didn't he, than everyone else, because he wanted to try and keep the battle up with Clint Orland. And as a result of that one, he's now considering, actually, have I got even enough fuel to get into this battle here? So we'll see. I reckon he's probably got something in the region around 7% of fuel left, with around about 1 minute, no, less than that now, sorry, it's 40 seconds left in this race. So this will be the final lap of this race. And fair play to the manager, by the way, the administrator, by the way, Brandon, reckons that this was going to be a 34-lap race. He absolutely nailed it by the looks of things. So fabulous stuff from him. So Jonathan Spiteri is considering his fuel now towards the end of this race, but he is only 27 thousandths off of his personal best, so he is keeping up that pressure. Clint Orland, actually, if we go on board with him, how's his fuel looking? Oh, I tell you what, actually, it's a lot less, even though that he actually pitted with more fuel. So actually, he's considering a real issue now with his tyres and with his fuel. He needs to go all the distance now to the end of this race. He'll be considering the long-term ramifications of this one. While this is all happening, by the way, going around turn 14 as we speak, Ayrton Birmingham, he's now just coming across here, and he's hoping that actually, and the checker flag is now waving, that he is going to be seeing a magnificent race victory from the Asphalt King from last season out. He's done the best that he can in this part of the season. It may be too short notice nowadays, but he's still a champion in the books of many people around. He wins tonight here in Switzerland. Jean-Paul Vella, great performance indeed for P2. He'll be happy with this performance as well in his McLaren. Clint Orland just able to hold on to P3 from Jonathan Spiteri. Chris Sammut finishes in a very respectable P5. Denzel Agius, what a great comeback it is after being spun out earlier on from Daniel Malia. He finishes in P6. Malia does manage to get Dave Potts in the end with that extra tyre life. He's in P7 from Mifsford, of course, who finishes in P8. Apparently something may have also happened to Denz as well, because he was actually in P5 at one point. So something obviously occurred there with the man fighting for the title. But your race winner tonight, no surprises. The Asphalt King himself, Ayrton Birmingham, wins here tonight in Switzerland.
Indeed, a superb race there. And at the end of all of it, it is Ayrton Birmingham who claimed the victory ahead of Jean-Paul Vella. Fastest lap as well. The only driver to reach the 126s in this race, just showed the absolute dominance for him as well. Then we find Clint Orland, who claims his first podium of the standings of the season. Sorry, my apologies. With Jonathan Spiteri there in P4, Christian Sammut will be in 5th, with Denzel Agius in P6, and then we find Daniel Malia ahead of looks to be David Mifsford there in P8, and then we'll round off the field with Marlon Spiteri and Osbert Zverev. They will be the 10 finishers from tonight's race. I am also, if you see me just having a look at a different screen here, I'm actually updating the standings. So I'm doing your
Adam,
top 4.
you do the math. Well, I'll just quickly talk about one point here, which is the fact that it was a great performance in the end from Jonathan Spiteri to obviously be the winner in that front three that are looking for the title. But I think he will actually be disappointed in the same time here, because he only managed to outscore Denzel Agius by the 4 points, which is such a small margin considering how close it is in this championship. With the fact that Daniel Malia crashed into his co-compatriot in this title, Jonathan Spiteri will be thinking, actually, I've dropped more points than I probably could have gained from this race, and that could actually harm his mental state going into the final couple of rounds in this championship, of course, when we head over to the Nürburgring next time out. Adam, you've done math.
I have done math, and I can tell you Jonathan Spiteri sits on 118 points. He now lies 12 points ahead of Denzel Agius. That's still pretty close, but Agius will be absolutely gutted not to close that to 10 points. You need every single point in the championship. A good surprise as well is Ayrton Birmingham. 97 points he is on, so that now finds himself I believe 21 back from Jonathan Spiteri. So if he can get a bit of a run here going, have another round like that, he will be right in the fight here. Daniel Malia drops the 4th, 94 points. And then right behind him, John Paul Vella in the second place is on 92 here. And then we go on to 70 for Christian Samet. It's 59 for David Mithson. Clint Orland's on 48, I believe. 21 for Owen Kassar, 20 for Osbert Zverev. And then we have 4 drivers who didn't compete tonight. I won't list them off, but yeah, they're less than 16 points. So that's what it currently stands at the moment. So it does still feel like it is, well, I still see there's a 5-car championship in here, maybe even 4, with John Paul Vella only getting 2 podiums for this season compared to the rest of the top 4 that are looking so consistent. And I also think that Ayrton Birmingham, as you said, James, he's definitely got his mojo back. It definitely seems like he's got a little bit of a run here. He's now got 3 podiums in the last 3 races. 2 of them have been wins. And compared that to Denzel Agius, he's had only 1 podium in the last 3 races. He's had a second place at Saint Croix and not had one since 4th and 6th. Yeah, it's not been great, to be honest, for him. But Spiteri can kind of say the same thing. Last 3 races, it's only been 1 win, and that's been it. He's only had he's been 4th, first, 4th. So take that form book into account, and we'll have to see what the Nürburgring has to say about it, because that could be a whole different story. I believe I'm 99.99% sure we will be on the Grand Prix Strecke layouts for this one compared to the granddaddy of the that is the Nordschleife. If Velocity could make that happen one day, that would be extremely cool. But yeah, it does seem like we'll be on the Grand Prix layout for the Nürburgring. But yeah, James, I have gone on a little bit of a ramble, but yeah, what have you kind of processed from that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the 4th official season, of course, of the Asphalt Kings here, and no surprises. We're in a championship hunt where we've got so many people who are obviously trying to fight it out for this championship. Ayrton Birmingham's trying to throw everything that he possibly can into this championship. I think even he will admit that potentially the championship is completely out of sight now after that poor first half of the season. However, he has shown that he can have that pace. He just needed to unlock it. It's just unfortunate that he found the key a little bit too late. So it's going to be basically that fight, I think, now between Denzel Agius and a great, obviously, battle with Jonathan Spiateri, who I think out of the pair of them, I know Denzel Agius will be unhappy that he's lost ground to Jonathan Spiteri, but Jonathan Spiteri had an opportunity to earn some big points tonight, and he did not capitalise, and that will harm him, I reckon, mentally going into the next round in the Nürburgring in just a week's time. Let's have a quick look at the calendar before we wrap it up, of course, because it is now only the 2 rounds left. We are at the Nürburgring, I said, next weekend out, of course, and then we take a trip to the Daytona International Speedway after that one as well. This calendar, obviously, a week in advance, because, of course, we took the extra week away from racing. So 11th of the 9th for the Nürburgring, and then the 18th of the 9th for the Daytona International Speedway. That should be a really good race as well. But 2 magnificent circuits here. Before we wrap this one up then, Adam, what learnings do we take from this particular race? It's not all set in motion, in my opinion. We definitely haven't got a person that's definitely going to win this championship. You'd say Spiteri is probably champion-elect, but could really be snatched right out of his hands.
I definitely think so. Spiteri just has to keep on tabs. If he finishes maybe outside the podium places again, that is going to be a real harmful kind of state for his championship, especially if Denzel Agius finds a magic wand of form. But yeah, I'd say it's between them two. It's been a very, very hotly contested battle. These two have really kept consistent, and I think you also have a look at the form book, and you see that I think everyone's had a dip in form. Everyone has had a dip in form during this kind of during this championship, whether that be at the start of the season for Ayrton Birmingham, whether that be kind of the mid stage for maybe John Paul Vella, or maybe whether it be the later stages for the likes of Denzel Agius. You never know. But yeah, before we round this up, I do want to say a big thank you to the partners and the sponsors as well: Hyundai, Intercomp, Monsters Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and the Specialist, all made with Velocity Esports Racing, and I believe we're also with Gaming Malta as well. So Yeah, a huge thank you to all of them for sticking us and being loyal to Velocity Esports Racing. But yeah, going back to kind of the potential for the last two rounds, I think Daytona is going to be an absolute cracker. You know, it's you're aware of what is held, the likes of the 24 hours of Daytona, and you know it can throw up absolutely anything, whether that be an iRacing, Gran Turismo, or whatever game you put it in. Daytona will throw up an absolute surprise and a half.
Well, the Nürburgring is its own beast, and that's where we take our trip next time out, of course, when we head just a little bit northeast towards Germany, of course, from this race here in Switzerland. But that is it. Velocity Esports will move on to Germany in just a week's time. We'll be there, and hopefully you will too. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Ta-da.